That first conversation. Thank you. Let's move to our last story. President Bola Tinubu this week promised to build a resilient economy and inclusive society. Tinubu urged the federal and state governments to move beyond deliberations and translate the resolutions of the National Economic Council NEC conference into concrete gains for Nigerians. The president made the assertions at the close of the two-day NEC conference. In a speech read on his behalf by Senate President Senator Godswill Akpabio, Tinubu said his government would sustain its reform drive, stressing that policies must produce visible improvements in citizens' daily lives. The president said sustainable prosperity requires deeper collaboration between the federal government and states, as well as disciplined execution of agreed policies. And of course, I still have my guest right here, and let me be very strong with you on this one. This is your forte. Let's get down to business. What do you really think of this President Tinubu's economic reforms?
So for me, under President Tinubu's reform,
Right.
I would say that Nigeria is in a restructural phase right now, rather than the comfort phase. We've seen that there's the tax reform removal. We've seen the subsidy removal, We're seeing that there is tax reforms. And, you know, this phase where we are is taking us from a phase where people initially, in the short term, it might be very painful. Right. From the short term, we go to the mid-term where we're stabilizing, but the long-term goal will be that there will be opportunity creation, and this is what I think that the reform is going to do. It's setting out to do this exactly.
All right. Dr. Ikubeze, quickly, how can people build businesses to take advantage of President Tinubu's reforms? Because it appears that most of the time when the president decides this is what we want to do, there is always a complaint from certain quarters that it appears everything just seems to go on the ground. The news is not out there, the orientation doesn't seem like it's spreading, but there are people benefiting. Others say we don't even know when these particular advantages take up. So how can people key in to these reforms to build businesses from your standpoint?
All right, I appreciate the president that he's talking about development of the economy, but there's no way you will have economic development without regular electricity supply. Okay. In 2019, when I was running for the office of the president, part of what I mentioned then is that within 1 year, we have uninterrupted power supply. And I believe Mr. President can make this happen. Now, recently, we had a situation where there was a concession that every state can generate and transmit their power. That is beautiful. Now, what I want to see is Mr. President inviting all the 36 state governors to Abuja, inviting stakeholders in the electricity sector to Abuja. And then you have what we call an electricity summit, whereby all the governors will meet the various companies that are into alternative power supply, as well as the main grid supply. And then we have a meeting with them and tell the governors within the broadcast, now, fellow Nigerians, here are your governors. Now, the responsibility of generating power lies in every state. So within the next 6 months, within the next 1 year, if there is no regular power supply in your state, hold your governors accountable. I tell you, if Mr. President does that, these governors will be on their toes and they will begin to work and the system will work. We can have uninterrupted power supply in Nigeria. But if we do not have that, I still don't know how we'll be talking about economic development. Now, talking about the tax, Nigerians they are not averse to paying tax. It's not as if they are running away from paying tax. But the question is, they want to see what the tax is being used for. They want to see transparency, they want to see accountability, and that's very important. So if I'm paying, I should be able to see that this and this and this are the things my tax is being used for. So I'm going to be happy paying tax, and that's what happens in developed countries. But in a situation where you are paying tax and you can't see any development around you, it becomes difficult for you to pay tax. So I welcome the economic policy of Mr. President, but there are more things to be done. You don't put the cart before the horse. The ones that are being done, there must be emphasis on transparency and accountability, starting from local government, state level, and the federal level. And then the fact that if we have power supply, regular power supply, we'll be able to build the economy. Of course, security is there. So all of these things will need to come together. So when we put them as a unison, we'll be able to have a system that will say, okay, we are building an economy that works. At that point, you wouldn't need to run after people to make the system work. They will love the nation. There will be patriotism. They will do everything to make the system work. But outside of that, you just realize that you'll be talking and they're not listening to what you're saying.
All right, thank you very much. He went holistic on all of that, starting from the electricity point, which is quite a vital tool in actually promoting businesses across the country. But let's stream it down to the ordinary Nigerian. What are the identifiable pitfalls to avoid when building a strong business?
So for me, as a business strategist, I will tell businesses to look at the lean cost structure.
Okay.
You want to make sure that you focus on ensuring that you're not building a Naira business on an FX business. Many times businesses don't think about it holistically. Two, we want you to start thinking globally. Like, we have technology right now and we can leverage it, and not just saying we're waiting on the government. Many countries are now using, technologies. You can monetize from wherever you are. So you don't want to just look at only what's happening from, the negative point of view, and you want to focus on the things so that you're not left behind whilst people are, advancing globally. So these are some of the pitfalls that they can look out for.
All right. Dr. Kubeze, very quickly, you were very expressive the other time when you talked about the fact that situations arise when the government needs to actually do the right things before certain things can be put in place. But we understand consistently that the current president has increased allocations to governors. In fact, it has tripled, as a matter of fact. Now, why is it that the buck doesn't always stop at the governor's table when developments in their states are not visible, especially with the reforms that the president has rolled out? Why is it that every time they keep wanting to blame the president for not making the move when exactly the governors have gotten what they need to get to work with? In fact, a lot of them were saying they've been able to pay their debt, so there is no excuse whatsoever. What is actually that problem that do not make us hold our governors accountable, but always keep blaming the president at the top?
Well, this is a very germ question, and that's why I said that Mr. President need to stand up and make Nigerians know that there is a need for the governors to sit up, and that's why I was talking about calling the Governors Forum. Okay. Now, when you look at the way the system is structured, our system is central. The policing is central. So if there is breakdown of security, the governor will come and tell you, oh, I'm just chief security officer by name. I'm not controlling anything. So that is in the mindset of the average Nigerian, that the governors are helpless, that the governors are not in charge of the system. Carry that all of the time. But since this president came in, we saw when he came and said subsidy is gone, and now governors are having more money. Local government chairmen are having more money. So, but we still carry that mentality that, oh, they are not really having much, everything is concentrated at the center. And that's why I said, Mr. President, need to keep re-emphasizing this. Okay. Nigerians, hold your governors accountable. They are getting more money, but we are not seeing that. So there is a need for orientation. Those days we used to have a National Orientation Agency, but they are not even talking about these things. So that's why we keep still looking at the president. If anything happens, they say, oh, he's a president, because every time the governors will come and tell us, oh, I'm just chief security officer by name and I'm not in charge of anything. So there's a tendency for that to trickle down. So if you ask many Nigerians, they don't even know who their local government chairman is.
All right.
They don't hold their, their elected officers to order because of things like that. So, Mr. President, we need to come out more and more and let the people know that these people have a responsibility. In fact, they have more money to work with now than they ever had in the past.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thomas Ikubeze, former presidential aspirant and, of course, a public affairs analyst, for your time on the show. It's indeed a pleasure having you join us today. And of course, Dr. Martina Ononiwu, Global Business Strategist, AI Consultant. We appreciate you for your time as well.
Thank you for
coming. And that's our show for today. But before we go, let's